"This meeting is for real family only," my brother Ethan said, his hand flat against the frosted glass door of Crawford Associates. Behind him, I could see my sister Bethany and brother Lucas already seated in the conference room, their faces composed in expressions of appropriate grief. I stood in the hallway holding a coffee I'd bought from the lobby Starbucks, wearing jeans and a Yale Law sweatshirt, looking exactly like what they'd always believed I was, the adopted kid who never quite belonged. What they didn't know what the attorney was about to tell them in approximately 30 seconds was that our grandfather had made me the sole trustee of his entire $400 million estate with complete discretionary control over every dollar they thought they were about to inherit. I looked at Ethan, at his Brooks Brothers suit and his certainty, and I said quietly, "Okay." Then I turned and walked back toward the elevator. Behind me, I heard the conference room door close. I pressed the button and waited, sipping my coffee, checking my phone like I had nowhere else to be. The elevator arrived. I stepped inside. The doors started to close. And then I heard it, muffled through walls and distance but unmistakable. "What?" The attorney's office was on the 43rd floor of a Boston high-rise. I rode the elevator down to the lobby, found a bench near the fountain, and waited. My phone was on silent, but I watched it light up with incoming calls. Ethan. Bethany. Lucas. Ethan again. A number I didn't recognize that was probably the attorney. I let them all go to voicemail. 15 minutes later, all three of my siblings burst out of the elevator bank like they were being chased. Ethan saw me first. "Where the hell have you been?" His voice echoed across the marble lobby. "You just left?" "You said the meeting was for real family only," I said calmly. "So I left. The lawyer needs you upstairs. Now." "Why? I'm not real family." Bethany's face was red, her perfect makeup starting to crack. "Stop playing games, Sophie. This is serious." "I'm not playing anything. You excluded me from the meeting." I respected that. "The will," Lucas said. He was the youngest, 28, and he looked like he might actually be sick. "Grandpa's will says you're the trustee. Of everything." "Does it?" I kept my voice neutral. "You knew?" Ethan stepped closer, aggressive. "You knew you were going to control the money and you didn't say anything?" "I knew Grandpa asked me to be trustee, yes. He asked me 3 years ago. And you just accepted? Without telling us?" "He asked me not to. He said he wanted to explain it himself in the will." "Well, he didn't explain anything," Bethany snapped. "He just said you're the trustee with full discretionary control, whatever that means. The lawyer needs you upstairs to go through the details." I took another sip of coffee. "I've already been through the details. Grandpa and I reviewed everything multiple times. I don't need another meeting." "We need the meeting," Ethan said. "We need to understand what's happening with the estate, with our inheritance." "Your inheritance," I interrupted, "is whatever I decide to give you. That's what sole trustee with full discretionary control means." The lobby went very quiet. "You can't be serious," Bethany whispered. "The trust document is very specific. All assets are held in trust. I control distribution. I can give you everything, nothing, or anything in between. My decision is final and not subject to challenge except in cases of gross negligence or self-dealing." Lucas sat down hard on a nearby bench. "This is insane. This is what Grandpa wanted." "Why?" Ethan's voice had lost its aggressive edge, replaced by something that sounded like genuine confusion. "Why would he do this? You're not even," he stopped himself, but we all knew what he'd been about to say. "Not even real family?" I finished. "That's what you said upstairs. That's what you've been saying my entire life." "I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. You all did." I stood up, setting my coffee cup on the bench. "I was 8 when Grandpa and Grandma adopted me. You were 12, Ethan. I remember you telling your friends at your birthday party that I was the charity case your grandparents took in. You want to know why Grandpa made me trustee? Maybe ask yourself that question." I started walking toward the exit. "Wait," Bethany called. "We need to talk about this." "We need to, Sophie. That money is supposed to be split between the 4 of us. Grandpa told us that. He always said we'd each get equal shares." I turned back. "And you would have. If you'd treated me like family." "We did treat you like family," Lucas protested. "Really? When was the last time any of you called me? Texted? Invited me to anything that wasn't a mandatory holiday?" Silence. "I moved to New Haven for law school 7 years ago. How many times have you visited?" More silence. "Grandpa visited me 43 times. He drove down every month, sometimes twice a month. We had dinner, talked about my classes, my internships, my life. He knew my friends' names, my professors' research, what I wanted to do after graduation. Can any of you name a single person in my life?" "That's not fair," Bethany said. "We've all been busy with our own careers. I know exactly how busy you've been. Ethan, you're a portfolio manager at Fidelity, making $340,000 a year. Bethany, you're in marketing at a pharmaceutical company, $180,000 plus bonus. Lucas, you're in your second year at your father's law firm, on track for partner. You all live in Boston, within 15 miles of each other. You have Sunday dinners together. You vacation together. You're busy with each other. I was just never part of the equation. Because you moved away, Ethan said. I moved 2 hours away for school. You act like I left the country. You were always different, Bethany said quietly. Even before you left. You were always more interested in Grandpa's stories than in us. Maybe because Grandpa's stories weren't about trust funds and stock portfolios. They were about building something that mattered. About the community mental health centers he funded, the scholarship programs, the medical research grants. He built $400 million by starting a generic pharmaceutical company that made medication affordable. He cared about impact, not just wealth. And you're just like him, Lucas said. It didn't sound like a compliment. I try to be. So what now? Ethan's voice was hard again. You're going to punish us by keeping all the money? I'm not keeping anything. The trust requires all funds to be used for either family support or charitable purposes. I can't just pocket it. Then what are you going to do? I'd been thinking about this question for 3 years, ever since Grandpa first asked me to be trustee. Since he'd explained, with tears in his eyes, that he'd watched his biological grandchildren become entitled and disconnected, that he'd watched them treat me like an outsider, and that he wanted to do something about it before he died. The trust allocates $50 million for family distributions, I said. That's about $12.5 million per person if divided equally. The remaining $350 million continues Grandpa's charitable work, mental health services, pharmaceutical accessibility programs, scholarship funds for foster kids and adoptees. So we each get $12 million? Lucas asked. If I distribute it that way, yes. What do you mean if? I mean the trust gives me discretion. I can give you each the full $12.5 million. I can give you nothing. I can give you different amounts based on different criteria. It's entirely up to me. This is extortion, Ethan said. No, this is consequence. Extortion would be demanding something in exchange for the money. I'm not demanding anything. I'm just deciding who deserves what. We're family, Bethany practically shouted. That's who deserves it. We're his grandchildren. So am I. You know what I mean. Say it, I interrupted. Say what you actually mean. Say real grandchildren, or blood grandchildren, or biological grandchildren. Be honest about how you've always seen me. She didn't say it. None of them did. But the truth hung in the air between us anyway. Here's what's going to happen, I said. I'm going to spend the next 6 months reviewing your lives, your choices, your values. I'm going to look at what you've done with the advantages you've had, how you've treated people, whether you've contributed anything meaningful to the world beyond your own bank accounts. Then I'll make distributions accordingly. You're going to investigate us? Lucas sounded horrified. I'm going to do my due diligence. The same thing any trustee would do before making major distributions. This is revenge, Ethan said. Pure revenge for perceived slights from childhood. It's not revenge. It's stewardship. Grandpa trusted me to make sure his money does some good in the world. That includes how it affects his family. We'll challenge this, Bethany said. We'll get lawyers, contest the trust. You can try. Grandpa's attorney spent 3 years making sure the trust was bulletproof. I'm not his employee or business partner, so there's no conflict of interest. I'm not elderly or mentally compromised. I'm a Yale Law graduate who clerked for a federal judge and worked in estate planning before taking my current position. Any court is going to look at my credentials and uphold the trust as written. What current position? Lucas asked. I'm the executive director of the Riverside Foundation. We provide legal services and support for foster children and adoptees. I've been doing it for 2 years. Oh my God, Bethany said. You're one of those non-profit people making $40,000 a year while Grandpa's foundation board salary was probably $200,000. This is about punishing us for being successful. My salary is $65,000, and Grandpa paid me $15,000 annually as a board member of his foundation. I'm not punishing you for being successful. I'm questioning whether you understand what success actually means. My phone rang. I glanced at it, the attorney's office again. I need to take this, I said, walking a few steps away. Sophie Hartwell. Miss Hartwell, this is James Crawford. Your siblings left rather abruptly, and we need to complete the formal trust documentation. Can you come back upstairs? I'll be there in 5 minutes. I hung up and turned back to my siblings. The attorney needs me to sign some paperwork. You're welcome to wait here or come back another time for your own consultation. We're coming up, Ethan said immediately. Suit yourself. The elevator ride was silent. The conference room was worse, 43 floors of tension concentrated into one wood-paneled space. James Crawford was in his 60s, gray-haired and professional, and he looked exhausted. "Thank you for returning, Ms. Hartwell. I have the trustee acceptance documents here, along with the preliminary asset inventory and some other items that require your signature." He slid a stack of papers across the table. I read through them carefully while my siblings watched. Financial accounts, real estate holdings, investment portfolios, the charitable foundation assets. It was all there, all $400 million, all under my control. I signed where indicated. "Excellent," James said. "Now, regarding distributions to the beneficiaries. I'll need 6 months to evaluate before making any decisions." "That's well within your rights as trustee. However, the will does specify some immediate distributions. Your grandfather wanted each grandchild to receive a personal bequest directly, outside the trust structure." I looked up. I wasn't aware of any direct bequests. "They're modest, relatively speaking. Personal items and some cash." He pulled out 4 sealed envelopes. These were to be distributed after the trust documentation was completed. He handed one envelope to each of us. Mine was heavier than the others. "You're welcome to open them here or in private," James said. Ethan tore his open immediately. Inside was a letter and a check. His face went pale as he read. Bethany opened hers next. Then Lucas. They all had the same expression, confusion mixed with something that might have been shame. I opened mine last. The letter was in Grandpa's handwriting. "Sophie, if you're reading this, you've accepted the role of trustee. Thank you. I know it won't be easy, especially with your siblings' reactions. They're good people, fundamentally, but they've lost sight of what matters. I'm hoping this responsibility will help them find their way back. The $10,000 check included here is not part of the trust. It's from me personally, with instructions: take yourself on a vacation. Somewhere you've always wanted to go. You've spent the last 7 years working yourself to exhaustion between law school and the foundation. Rest. That's what I want for you. As for your siblings, remember that giving them nothing helps no one. But giving them everything teaches nothing. You'll find the right balance. You always do. I'm proud of you. Not because you're managing my money, but because of who you've become, someone who cares more about impact than appearances, more about people than portfolios. That's why you're the right person for this. Love always, Grandpa." I folded the letter carefully, tucking it back in the envelope along with the check. "What did yours say?" Bethany asked quietly. "It's personal." "Ours too," she said. She looked at Ethan and Lucas. "He wrote to each of us. About how we've treated you. About what family should mean." Ethan set his letter down, his hands shaking slightly. He knew. He knew exactly how we acted, what we said, how we made you feel. And he still gave us a chance to do better. "What did your check say?" I asked. "Mine was $10,000, Lucas said, with instructions to donate it to a cause Sophie cares about and prove I actually researched what that meant." "Mine too," Bethany added. "Same instructions." Ethan nodded. "Mine said the same. And it said I have 6 months to prove I understand what it means to be your brother, not just your grandfather's heir." The conference room was quiet except for the muted sounds of traffic 43 floors below. "So what now?" Lucas asked, not aggressive anymore, just tired. "We spend 6 months trying to convince you we're worthy of the money?" "No," I said. "You spend 6 months deciding who you want to be. Whether you want to be people who see family as blood obligation or as chosen connection. Whether you want to be people who measure worth in inheritance or in impact. The money will still be there either way. But who you are when we revisit this, that's up to you. And if we do better?" Bethany's voice was small. "If we actually try? Then maybe we become actual siblings instead of strangers who share a grandfather." "Is that what you want?" Ethan asked. I thought about that. What did I want? I'd spent 26 years as the outsider, the adopted kid, the one who didn't quite fit. Did I want their approval now? Their acceptance? "I want what Grandpa wanted," I said finally. "A family that actually acts like one. But I'm not going to force it. And I'm not going to buy it with inheritance money. Either you want to be my family, really be my family, or you don't. The trust gives me 6 months to evaluate. I'm giving you 6 months to decide." James Crawford cleared his throat. "If there's nothing else requiring immediate attention, I think we can adjourn. Miss Hartwell, I'll send the final trust documents to your office next week." "Thank you." We all stood. The elevator ride down was less tense than the ride up, but still awkward. When we reached the lobby, my siblings hesitated. "Sophie," Lucas said. Would you want to get coffee? Or lunch? Not to talk about the trust, just to talk." I looked at him, at his uncertain expression, at the letter still clutched in his hand. "Maybe," I said. "Not today. But maybe next week. Text me. I will. I promise. Bethany touched my arm. I'm sorry. For all of it. For making you feel like you didn't belong. You deserved better. Yes, I said. I did. Ethan was the last to speak. I was wrong. About the meeting, about everything. You are real family. You always have been. Then prove it, I said. Not to get the money. Prove it because it's the right thing to do. He nodded. I walked out into the Boston afternoon, leaving them standing in the lobby, probably wondering how their day had gone so completely sideways. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Lucas. Just saved your contact. Want to grab coffee next Tuesday? My treat. No agenda, just getting to know my sister. I smiled and typed back, Tuesday works. The thinking cup at 2? His response came immediately, perfect. See you there. Maybe Grandpa was right. Maybe they were good people who'd lost their way. Maybe 6 months was enough time to find it again. Or maybe it wasn't. Either way, I had $400 million to steward, a foundation to run, and a vacation to plan. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need their approval to know I belonged.